Hi, this is Ryan Thomas Johnson of Carnosaur 2, and you are listening to The Final Gaze.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Final Gaze. My name is Harrison.
And I'm Toby.
And today, continuing on with our, spooky month, movies that are set during Halloween, we are covering the Donnie Darko, which, I know. Earlier, Toby mentioned that, I would say it's not a horror film. No, it's not.
I'm going to just make a bold statement. I think this is our first non-horror movie that we've reviewed. I'll say for sure.
I'm okay with that.
I'm not upset about it, but...
But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I guess if we were to maybe split this up into percentages, it would be maybe 40% sci-fi, 40%... I don't know, drama, 10% comedy, 10% horror, quote unquote?
There is no horror in this 5%? Movie. It's 2.5%.
2.5%.
There's two parts of the movie that had maybe some imagery.
Yeah.
That could be scary, but I don't think nothing was played for horror. It was mostly played for tragedy, I think. Sadness.
And I think the one horror element in this movie is, of course, the 6-foot rabbit guy.
Yeah.
Who is really known as Frank.
Frank the Rabbit is probably the most famous thing to come out of this movie. You think of Donnie Darko, you think of the rabbit, which is actually a very small part of the movie. Yeah,
small, but integral.
Poignant. Yes, he's very important.
Now, what was that movie in the 50s or 60s that came out that featured this man? It was a black and white movie, and it's about this man who was hallucinating about seeing a giant rabbit. No?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I really should have looked that up, but I know that there was a movie that came out. Obviously, that inspired this. But I was it was way too obvious to not be referenced in this, as well as talking about Donnie Darko without having to talk about that movie, which I'm forgetting. I know it's the name of the rabbit, Henry or something, but
I don't know.
Yeah, I remember it was on a list that it was on Steven Spielberg's oh, you should watch this movie. It's a movie a very important movie you should watch because
he also thought Paranormal Activity was the scariest movie he's ever seen. So.
Oh, that is true. That is true. I wouldn't say it was scary though. I think that at least the movie I'm thinking about with the giant rabbit dude was played off as a comedy. Yeah. Which, I mean, Paranormal 1 at least,
It was spooky. I did get scared. I wouldn't say it's the scary. I mean, it doesn't have
the scariest
rewatchability. It's best watched in a theater, I think. With people.
This whole quarantine, I did watch all of them for the first time. I think I watched the first one and the marked ones, or the one that was geared more towards Latinos.
The Latino one was really good. I think that's my favorite. Surprisingly good.
And I think we actually discussed that because inadvertently it turned out that movie was a prequel to the first. So I still was out of the loop, but in the loop.
Yeah.
But yeah. After the gimmick, it was oh, great, here we go again. But such is not the case with Donnie Darko, and this actually kind of had me a little nervous, because all little while we're kind of chit-chatting about, because, we communicate on Facebook.
We're friends in real life. This isn't the only time we talk. We actually... Yeah.
So, and I got a little nervous with this episode just because it... aside from the fact that it was not a horror movie. But I guess I should ask outright, without, doing the whole final thought aspect of it. Did you like this movie?
I really, really wrestled with that the whole time I was watching it. I will say when it first came out, I was in high school, and I was in theater, and I did film, and so I was a huge film geek, and I devoured movies. And this movie, when it came out, was for artsy kids, it was it almost went to like straight to DVD at a very small release. So most of the people that I knew had seen it only saw it on DVD. So it was kind of like one of those movies where people were like, "Have you seen Donnie Darko? Have you heard of this movie?" And I loved it the first time I saw it. I was like, genius. I don't understand a thing about it, but it must mean that it must be amazing, whatever the message is. And it was funny and weird, and I was really into quirky independent movies back then. I gave a lot of what's the word? I made excuses for a lot of movie based on, I don't know, because
Like,
it was cool and stuff.
Was it like, oh, you just didn't get it?
Yeah, it was like that. Oh well, you just didn't get. Yeah, it was exactly
Defended
like that.
it, or
I defended it.
Yeah,
I
okay.
loved it back in the day. I thought it was like genius. Couldn't tell you what it was about, but I just thought it was so cool. And I haven't seen it in a really long time. And watching it this time, it's like trying to think back of like my young mind, what I was thinking when I was watching. I could see like that's why I liked it, and that's why I liked it then. But now, honestly, it was so hard not to pick up my phone and like start twittering and stuff. I got so fucking bored. Not to say it's a bad movie, but it was like I was really feeling the runtime this time, and watching it with a more critical eye. I mean, the movie doesn't make any fucking sense. Like they're and for me, unfortunately, I hate time travel. I don't really like that element in movies, and so this movie, I don't know. It's such a weird fucking movie. There's parts of it that I was like, that's really good. Like at the end with Jenna Malone looking at
the mother,
Mary McDonald, that gave me chills. I was like, that's cool. Like, they didn't know each other, but they kind of remember from the other dimension or whatever the fuck those people were.
The tangent universe.
Yes.
It should be noted that in preparation for this review, I actually didn't read any of the trivia for the movie. Instead, I read just the little 6-page, double-spaced, fictional movie book in the movie, The Philosophy of Time Travel. So I have some of the terms.
Hopefully, you
down.
can explain a little more, maybe a little bit about what it's about.
I will attempt that, but
I recommend the movie, and I think it's worth a watch at least, and kind of decide for yourself. Me personally, my tastes have changed, and so I had some problems with it.
Yeah. And that's been The Final Gaze. If you want to listen to us, we're on Spot. Just kidding. But I should also mention that I love time travel. I love the concept of it. I love how confusing it could be. I love just how it could open a whole novel's worth of opportunity. And I especially love the time travel in this movie, just because it involves having to create, it involves a sacrifice at the end, a self-sacrifice.
And I know you love self-sacrifices.
I love self-sacrifice. In fact, I have written a short story around time travel based around self-sacrifice because, I just love the concept of time travel, especially when it comes to like paradoxes. I love the bootstrap paradox. That always gets me. Of course, I think that's been terrifically portrayed in the TV show Doctor Who, specifically with the Peter Capaldi episodes, which I love. Time travel in movies. I remember that I did write a script in college, and usually I don't really give my scripts to other people to make, but I had complete trust in my classmate to adapt this time travel script. I let him have it, and he could do whatever he wants with it. And he fucked it up. And it was absolutely crazy because it was this particular film student came more from I guess you could say he needed logic applied to the unexplained. I remember we got into a huge argument about time travel. Thinking back on it, it was the most ridiculous conversation ever, because it kind of came down to that conversation between like in Scary Movie 3, the big guy with the dreads and the little dude Kevin Hart. It kind of boiled down to that, because it kind of came down. Well, if this happens, then that completely cuts off that tangent universe, and it doesn't quite work like that. I'm like, yeah, but the thing with time travel, it's not a real science, so you don't need to apply real science to it. And that's where the magic of time travel can be lost. I believe in the magic of time travel. The fantasy aspect of it.
Yeah.
So, and Donnie Darko has fantasy elements in it.
The problem with that for me with Donnie Darko is it focuses so much more on the people in the town and the quirky personalities and their interactions, that the aspect of time travel and the whole like physics and philosophy of physics and things like that are only like kind of thrown in here and there, and then at the end all of a sudden it's almost like a disaster movie, right? Like they're saying the world's gonna end, he's seeing this huge fucking weird thing in the sky, if he doesn't sacrifice himself he's gonna die, but that is shoehorned at the very end of the movie. I remember that being a through line the whole movie. You're like, oh, the world's gonna end or something, but I felt like if it was played more like a disaster movie, it would have been better or more solid. But it was just like, okay, it's a movie about a kid with schizophrenia. That would be great. I loved that kind of part of it. And then also it's sci-fi. He's some kind of chosen one. And then it's disaster movie, and then it's drama tragedy and time travel.
Yeah.
I don't think that it meshes well, honestly. I don't think it just doesn't make any sense to me. The tones change too much.
So here's another question for you, but before I ask that, we'll do our usual lineup real quick. When was the first time you watched Donnie Darko?
High school, maybe 2006, 7, perhaps. When did this come out?
2001.
Yeah, so it was around
2001, 2002, I think. 2001. Yeah.
It was around 2006 or 7, I think. So freshman, sophomore, junior year of high school, I think is when I saw this.
Yeah, it could have been a little later, but I want to say 2001 was the year. Actually, I better look that up just to be safe, because what I'm about to say next could have an adverse effect. Yep, 2001. I want to say that maybe the reason why this didn't do so well is because, of course, our huge finale involves a plane, and, there was a little incident in 2001 involving several planes. So I wonder if that had something to do with that. So, but yeah, oh God. I remember I rented it from Blockbuster right in high school. And I didn't really know what it was. I think it just looked kind of cool. It was like a random kind of rental, Friday night, go in, rent it, bring it back on Sunday. And this movie definitely had my full attention through the whole running time. And up until the very end, and right when I finished, I think I had the same sentiments as you. I was like, holy crap, this was the best movie I've seen up to that point, at least, and actually to this day, this is one of the movies that I am very sad that I'll never be able to experience for the first time again, just because of, the ending and how everything sort of, quote unquote wraps up, especially the ending. I think is my favorite of the whole thing for obvious reasons. We'll get into that. But yeah, and then later on, they released like the director's cut, which is 20 minutes longer, and I think that it's kind of required viewing to sort of understand these more time travel-y aspects of it. Have you seen the director's cut?
Yeah, I saw it when it came out.
Yeah, and I think that one for me, while it was great, it kind of had all the benefits of being a director's cut. There was more, character stuff. There was expanded on a lot of things, and I'm kind of in a love-hate relationship with the inclusion of the excerpts from the Philosophy of Time Travel book, because
me too.
Just because the theatrical kind of allows you to draw to your own conclusions, whereas the director's cut literally says, "Hey, dummy, this is what's happening." But
it's like not, hey dummy, it's like, hey person who doesn't understand something I completely made up, and really only I understand. Like, that's the thing. Is not. I don't think it's a smart movie. Like, I don't think because it deals with physics and time travel and all this weird philosophical things, and I feel like it sounds smart when they're talking about it and as it's unfolding, but I don't think it's a smart movie.
Yeah, I don't think it's smart either, and I think that was kind of apparent in today's viewing, and I guess the one thing that it does, at least for me, is that it does kind of present some interesting, questions. Kind of makes you think a little bit more differently about certain things. At least when it comes to this universe of the movie. Like the
example. Give me an example.
Like the one thing is, first of all, this can be viewed as either it's just weird writing or purposely directed acting. But the only reason why everyone in this movie is acting so bizarre is because they're referred to as the book states, the manipulated living. And even though they're completely unaware of it, in their own ways, they're reacting to this tangent universe coming to an end. So that's why everyone's acting so fucking weird. Like, specifically with the characters of Kitty Farmer, the principal, Jim Cunningham. The reason why they're so over the top is because, oh God, I forget their terms, but specifically in the scheme of that fake book, they're purposely on a mission to destroy Donnie Darko in their own way.
And you see, that is not portrayed in the movie, though. Like that. Not once is that mentioned. That I don't, a lot of people were like, oh, when he wrote that thing you can read either online or with the director's cut, it'll, explains everything, makes so much sense. And it's like, well, I don't think you should have to read something the director wrote after the fact to explain the nonsensicalness of his movie. Because I don't get any of that from the movie. I don't get some kind of, I don't get that they're all sort of these players in this grander scheme. It just seems random. Without, maybe if they had dropped some lines in there, like you said he did put like some of the book in the director's cut. You saw those things. I don't know.
Which again, and obviously now this comes next. I would like to think that this book was written by the writer and the director Richard Kelly, and he used that as like a basis. But of course, I can also believe that he did write the book after the movie just so he could explain.
I think he did.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's what he did.
And which, I think that Donnie Darko has this insane ability to split the viewing audience into two distinctive groups here. The first group thinks it's the best movie ever made. It's just a mind fuck, and I loved every moment of it. You just didn't get it. You got those. I want to say, unfortunately, like the film nerds, and then you
film snobs.
Yeah, the film snobs.
But those people can't even tell you what the movie's about.
Right. Then you got the second group who just thinks it's the worst movie ever made, the most badly written, acted, nonsensical piece of shit movie, and I call them cynical, and I'm not gonna say I fall into that category, but I do understand where they're coming from, specifically with the movie as not complex, but it does present itself as complex when really it's kind of confusing when you look at it on the surface. Unfortunately, our mutual friend Richard, he didn't watch it. So I actually wasn't able to gauge his response to it to see how he'd feel about it, But I just know for a fact that when I did first watch it, it kind of unfolded naturally for me. So I guess I fall into the category of a film snob, but I also kind of fall in the category of, well, I can see its faults. And when you really focus on those faults, that's when it really starts coming apart. Like, I think we have different views on the exactly how does one suck a fuck scene. I think for me that's the most memorable part of the movie because of just how ridiculous it is.
Yeah. I mean, they're trying to set up family dynamic. I get it. I remember it being fucking hilarious. And then me now, I was like, okay, this is kind of dumb. It wasn't as funny as I remembered it to be. It wasn't as clever or, I don't know, witty as I thought. Or had remembered it to be. I do think the acting's really good. I will say that. I think everyone's at the top of their game. I mean, Drew Barrymore doesn't have a whole lot to do, honestly, but I feel like everyone came and did their job fine.
And it's funny because, and I think for the most part, I did always enjoy Drew Barrymore in this movie, but this time,
she's barely in it.
Yeah, she is barely in it, and that's I think I like her more in the director's cut, because, again, what's lacking in the theatrical are the smaller character moments, and a lot of those character moments kind of went to her, because honestly, this time around, she seemed like kind of a really bad teacher. She's sort of like smack talking that girl who obviously didn't read. And she's like literally like dissing her and putting her down, I'm like, well, now I can see why, she lost her job.
She lost her job. Yeah. When that scene happened, I was like, yeah, I mean, the dean or the principal or whatever is a jackass, but I kind of agree. You really probably shouldn't be teaching children. And her partner, her husband, though, I thought was very smart when he was like, I can't continue this conversation.
Yeah. And is that the,
Doctor from ER?
Oh, is that okay? I thought he was that guy from Star Trek.
No, he's the doctor from ER.
Oh, okay.
That's like
Wesley.
His biggest thing.
I thought he was Wesley. I don't know why.
That is not Wesley.
Okay.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Well, you know what? I've only seen a season and a half of The Next Generation, so
I'll forgive you.
Thank you. But it's great. But you see, that's why I kind of prefer the director's cut when it comes to Drew Barrymore's character, because there are scenes cut where just small character moments between her and Donnie, specifically when they're trying to have them write, they made me do it, and then Donnie's really nervous. It cuts to Drew Barrymore's character kind of suspecting, like, well, Donnie's acting a little strange. And one scene that I feel they should have never cut, but is present in the director's cut, is that, she addresses her classroom by saying that the book by Graham Greene, The Destructors, has been banned. And, I feel that was like a very important reason as to why that leads to her being fired. Not so much that she was just dissing this girl, which admittedly is a funny scene, but come on, teacher, you're supposed to teach, inspire, but so I don't know. See, that's why I always, the version I have of Donnie Darko is from Arrow, and they have like literally both, like they have a very awesome plethora of special features as well as both the theatrical and the directors. So that's why I was able to kind of, I only got through half before I realized I'm hungry and I went to go eat. So after that, I just did a quick, I'd read through of what was different between the director's cut. But I do prefer the director's cut more than theatrical for those reasons alone. So, and with that being said, I will also say that Donnie Darko, while he is an interesting character, I actually found more of the supporting characters to be more interesting characters.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Everyone else is so much more interesting than Donnie Darko. And Jake Gyllenhaal, I mean, he didn't really have to do anything but look tired.
Honestly. Crazy, confused.
Monotone. Everyone else had so much more to do.
Yeah, like for sure, my number one top supporting character is Drew Barrymore's character. I feel that she has a lot going against. She's very liberal, and her like arch nemesis is the PE teacher. I always forget her name.
Is it Kitty?
Kitty Farmer, yes.
She's my favorite. First off, I love that actress. I think she really steals the show. I mean, Drew Barrymore is okay, but maybe, like you said, it's better in the director's cut. But in the theatrical version,
it's all
I feel like she's very just I mean, Drew Barrymore is just very bland, I feel. And her husband's character, they just weren't used enough in the theatrical. I think Kitty being so outrageous and, she's acting.
Yeah, and it's funny
It's
because...
good. It's interesting.
Yeah, she has, I think, some of the more memorable lines of the movie.
What is it?
He told me to stick...
Sometimes I question your commitment to sparkle motion.
Yeah, sparkle motion. Yeah, that was great.
And the other one, of course, the best one being...
He told me to shove this book up my anus.
Yes.
Honestly, the other lines, aside from the obvious, exactly how does one suck a fuck? And that he doesn't even go to Donnie Darko. It goes to his sister. Of course, played, I guess we should also mention, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Jake Gyllenhaal, real life siblings, playing siblings in Donnie Darko. And also...
Better actor.
You think Maggie's better
I think in this movie she's better. In her small scenes, I think she's a lot better than Jake.
Okay. I don't know. I think they're both great. I don't think... she didn't exactly have anything more to do than Donnie, except for just being there. Like, she wasn't...
I guess that's true,
Like, she wasn't exactly integral,
No, not at all, no.
Yeah.
I just thought I felt there was some charisma there in the small scenes that she did have. Mm-hmm. That I wasn't getting from Donnie, and and that's probably because he's supposed to be, like, doped up. He just seems doped up the whole movie.
Oh.
He's just in that kind of drowsy, dreamy way.
Which is funny that you say that, because the major difference between the theatrical and the director's is just one scene, and it explains why his therapist wakes up in a state of guilt. Because in the director's cut, she explains that Donnie was taking placebos the whole time, and he wasn't actually taking any kind of medication. So, like, in her mind, she failed him, because he couldn't help him be better. So that's why the first time, at the end, after Donnie Darko dies, he gets crushed by the jet engine, she's the first to wake up. I
think it was good to cut that.
Yeah. I kind of think so too, but it also would explain, as why she's there. I know she had like a big impact with, the therapy sessions with him, but I felt that, it kind of referencing it, these are gazebos,
Yeah. And the mom is reading it at the beginning of the movie.
Right. Whoa. That is awesome. There we go. Have you read it?
Confirmed.
Was that an actual thing was that a book thing or a movie thing?
What?
Placebos?
The gazebos?
Yeah.
Movie.
Okay.
Movie thing.
Oh, okay. Well, I figured that would have been pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But honestly, this is absolutely great. But before we go any further, we should probably get into our favorite part of the podcast. You know what time it is.
Yes.
Cue the music. And now it's time for our favorite part of the podcast, Nerdy Film Score Talk. Okay, Nerdy Film Score Talk for Donnie Darko. We have a score written by one Michael Andrews, which this is the first time I've seen his name on a movie. I think he's done other stuff. Wow, I think I was more interested in the time travel aspect than it was for doing research on the composer. But it's a very interesting score. It's just a single person, no huge orchestra. This is a man at a keyboard or a real piano maybe, and some synthesizers. So obviously that's probably all they could afford, because this has a very modest budget of $390,000. So pretty low, truly independent. So let's just jump right in. There's how many tracks we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tracks. The last two, of course, well, we'll get into that. But this is going to be pretty much the primary score right here. The first track I want to reference is called Cellar Door, which, is that true? Is cellar door the most beautiful word in the English language?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
No.
I think that may have been a thing where it was like someone, like some poet said that this combination of words is like the most beautiful, combination of words in the English language. Cellar door. That's what the movie said. I didn't look into it. Did you find anything like that in your deep dive of trivia?
No.
Well, regardless, it's a nice sounding piece with an ethereal vocalist with like a dancing piano motif. So we'll play that for you right now. Next track on reference is called Rosie Darko, the Mother's Theme. And
I like this one.
Yeah, it's very profound. It's very loving and full of longing. Surprisingly, very sad, which, of course, I think given the nature of the character and the movie.
When I started listening to the tracks that you said you were going to cover, I was like, I bet they're all fucking sad. Yep, almost all of them.
This one right off the bat.
The exception of maybe one
Yeah.
is just tragic and heartbreaking.
Which they all have that general overtone of the movie, except for one or two tracks, but I'm totally fine with that. And the next track on reference is called Gretchen Ross, which is not her real name. It's like a fake name. But Donnie's love interest gets a theme. And we'll play that.
And I like this track too.
Yeah, we'll play that for you right here. So far, it appears that most of the female characters in this movie do have themes, which I think is not by accident. Excuse me. Oh, there it is. Okay. The next one is definitely one of my favorites. I think it's the most fun track. Liquid Spear Waltz. And as the title suggests, it's a fun waltz that I totally want to get drunk to this and walk downtown Phoenix. I could just be, just put this on.
It's an okay track.
Yeah, this is a soundtrack that has been with me since I first experienced. It's probably freshman year of high school. This was a track walking down the high schools on the iPod, Liquid Spear Waltz, judging everyone walking past me.
One thing I will say about the soundtrack when I was listening to it is I would forget that the track changed because I do feel like a lot of the tracks sound the same.
That is true, especially when I was purposely listening to it. I'm like, okay, well, they're obviously just sort of reprising Gretchen Ross's theme. They're just reprising Rosie Darko's theme, and they specifically replayed this theme coming up in the next track called Manipulated Living. And this
my
is
favorite track.
Exactly, this is one of my favorites as
Absolute favorite. It's so good.
And this plays when Donnie is heckling Jim Cunningham, and it just has that feeling of something like mischievous.
It's building to something. Yeah, I don't know. The tension is rising. I love it.
I just love that. It's just again, it's like Kevin in Home Alone showing me the layouts for the traps he's laying.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
like planning something, it's setting traps, it's
Boom,
investigating
boom,
or
boom,
something.
ba-da, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And this next track, the weirdest, the quirkiest piece that would, and it would fit in with some oddball comedy, Middlesex Times. And this plays, and it's funny because it's playing when they're investigating the school flood, and it's so like, this doesn't belong, but I never
Yeah.
noticed it being out of place in the movie.
And yeah, I didn't really notice until I listened to it separately.
It's like, this
In
was
the
in Donnie
movie-
Darko?
You're kind of focusing on other things, I think. The music doesn't really stand out a whole lot.
And yes, that plays in a movie. That plays in a serious movie. And it works. It just works. I mean, it's not. I don't think the movie was ever meant to be like too menacing. You know, except when you get the director's cut, a lot of the music is changed to sound way more dark and mysterious.
Yeah.
So, and the last track that was written primarily by Michael Andrews is called "Insurance Trap," and this is, and again, like it was with Monster House, this is the spookiest atmospheric track. This is a very horror sounding track we have. It's just long drones, sound effects even. There's nothing musical about this. It's very just dark and sinister. And we'll play that for you right here. Which, you know, I mean...
I don't really think it's that effective. I think I skipped it midway through because I was like, I already know how this is going to go.
Yeah.
It's just a tone.
It's just a
like
tone.
One kind of menacing tone-ish.
Which, I mean, I like it. And again, this is that was playing more towards, like, you know, the Frank moments, you know.
Yeah.
Both character and word used intentionally. So these last two tracks I want to reference, aside from the actual score, which, you know, my favorite tracks are Liquid Spear, Waltz, Middlesex Times, the last two tracks. And it's funny because did you have a hard time finding For Whom the Bell Tolls?
Yeah, because it wasn't on the main soundtrack, and I was like, I don't remember the Metallica song playing in this movie, but maybe it's like a cover or something. So thanks for sending that to me.
I don't think it was, but I am absolutely in love with this track. It's my absolute favorite track from the movie.
Hated it.
You
Absolutely
hated it?
I hated this
Oh.
track. I thought it was so out of place.
Really?
I thought it made it. I thought it was so cheesy. It took me right out.
No.
Took me right. It's not that kind of movie. Like, that's my problem with this movie, is that it does things as if it's. I don't know. It just didn't fit the movie for me. It's not that kind of operatic kind of movie, and maybe it's trying to be, or that's what it was meant to be, but it's so focused on the quirky little characters in this town that when it got to that track, I was like, it just does not fit. I don't care enough about this character I don't care enough about what's happening, because I don't know what's happening for this song to give me some kind of emotion towards.
Well,
I don't know.
I didn't have like an emotional reaction to it. For me, it did that thing as music should do. It it just kind of expanded on that scene for me. It's funny because it seems like you said it pulled you out of it. It pulled me further into it, just because now we have Frank in this movie theater setting, and he's actually communicating with Donnie, and of course, the line, "Why you're wearing that stupid human face."
Why are you wearing that stupid bunny suit?
Why are you wearing that stupid man suit?
Again, that could be taken one of two ways.
That's a good line.
Yeah.
Great line. I'm just saying this specific track didn't do it for me. It did not do it for me.
It did it for me just because of that scene, particularly when he, it's kind of like we think that this figure, this mysterious figure is like some sort of weird dimensional monster, but then when he takes his mask off, it's just some guy with a eye wound, so I don't know. I mean, the track alone, maybe if it wasn't
like
applied,
listen to the soundtrack and then listen to that track right after the last one, it does not fit. It doesn't match the tone of the rest of the soundtrack at all to me.
And it's funny because obviously this wasn't written by Michael Andrews, and actually I was really disappointed because it wasn't on the actual soundtrack. This is something that is available elsewhere from another CD or whatever, and that makes me wonder because when I first watched the movie, obviously I loved it, and teenage me, I must have the soundtrack. I look at the track listing. There's a track in there called "Burn It to the Ground," and I'm thinking that's that track, but then it wasn't. And a part of me's wondering if that track from the soundtrack was originally supposed to be playing on that scene, which maybe, and I feel that the soundtrack has a track in there that was cut from the final film. The track is called "Did You Know Him?" And obviously I think that plays at the very end when Gretchen is sort of like looking at the mother. And I think it was far more effective with no music. So I'm kind of glad that it was cut.
Yeah, that scene is perfect, I think, the way it is presented.
So part of me is wondering if the track "Did You Know Him" was originally supposed to be "For Whom the Bell," or "For Whom the Bell Tolls" was originally supposed to be "Did You Know Him?" Regardless,
I'm glad it wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I like it. It's really somber. It's a choir piece, and
I like choir pieces. I just don't think it was a good song.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that track that Hans Zimmer wrote in response to the Dark Knight Rises shooting, Aurora. I don't know if you've heard that or not.
I have heard Aurora. Yeah. Damn, I had something in my mind, but I forgot what it was.
Oh.
Shit. I'm getting old, guys.
I think...
okay. It sounds like it should be in a parody.
A parody?
I feel like it's just so bombastic, and the whole movie, it's very real, like a lot of realism as far as suburban life. To go from that and like manipulated living, and then Gretchen's theme, and then to go to whoa, like it just.
Well, then I think that's funny because I think that also adds into the fantasy element. Then, if the town of Middlesex is to be the realism of the movie, then, and I'm reaching very far and delving real deep into this. Then the movie theater must be the fantasy element because obviously some weird shit happens in that movie or in that movie theater, because that's where we first see Frank unmask himself, and that's where the portal forms on the screen. But of course, I will do anything to defend my "For Whom the Bell Tolls," Toby. For whom the bell tolls. Clearly not for thee.
For no one.
Clearly not for you. But,
Yes.
I don't know. I love it. It just sounds like it would play in some ancient church somewhere. And it would be one of those moments when I'm walking down a busy street and I hear this choir singing it and I'm like, I want to go to there, and I go in there, and I'm just sit there and enthralled, and that's what I picture. And it's funny because it does play to one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, as I said before, I was totally prepared to be heartbroken by some moments for this movie. So, and of course, as we stated personally amongst ourselves, how could we talk about Donnie Darko and not talk about Mad World?
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces.
So here's a question, and I'm hoping that it's a yes. Do you like this song?
I do like the song. With the movie, I don't listen to it.
Oh,
I probably wouldn't listen to it on its own.
Oh,
because
man.
all it does is remind me of Donnie Darko.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get any kind of emotional pull from it. To me, it's a movie. It's a song that was made for a movie, even though I know it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cover.
Yeah.
I feel like it's more marketing now. Like, it's more just a part of the movie. Everyone knows this song and the effect it had at, whether you like the movie or not. I feel like this particular scene when the song starts playing is touching. It's really well filmed. It's really somber.
Their tears are filling up their glasses. No expression, no expression. Hide my head, I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow, no tomorrow.
But other than that, I wouldn't listen to it outside of the movie. I don't know. It doesn't fit with my catalog. I know you love sad movies, but the thing is, I just can't. I can't separate
Heartbreak
this
is real.
song. I can't separate this song from the movie. So when I listen to it on my own, all I am thinking about is the movie, and I can't enjoy the song for being a piece of music.
I can also understand that because for me though, I did use it as an end credit song for one of the very first movies I ever made. So there is a bit of nostalgia for that because when I realized that the credits were really short, after that, I just sort of put like behind the scenes footage in slow motion of that shoot. So every once in a while, I'll go back to a movie I made 15 years ago. It's on YouTube. And then I would just see like the behind the scenes footage of me in my youth when I was 15 years old making my very first movie. And it's crazy to think back that time because I would see the faces of all my friends back then and just see where they are now.
Well, see, you have a nostalgic pull to it,
Yeah.
and also you have a reference for the song that's not Donnie Darko.
Children waiting for the day they feel good. Happy birthday, happy birthday. And to feel the way that every child should. Sit and listen, sit and listen.
But even when it was even when it did play to Donnie Darko, I loved it. And a little bit of trivia and something that I do know, I think you may or may not know this, but they actually wanted to use a different song other than
Yeah, I did
Mad
read
World.
that.
And they wanted to use U2's song MLK, which I actually really like. I really do like that song.
It's not bad. Yeah.
And I think it did fit more with the idea of what they were trying to convey theme-wise, the idea of dreams and, waking up and self-sacrifice and all that stuff, obviously following in the footsteps of Martin Luther King. I had a dream. I have a dream. But Mad World, while it doesn't exactly convey like ideas directly to the movie,
it's purely a cinematic choice. It's to invoke an emotion.
Yeah,
I think.
I don't know. I just think it perfectly encapsulates teenage angst.
No, I'm not saying the song is bad.
Yeah.
I love the song in the movie. I love the way it's edited. When I watched it this time, I did get a tug. It got me. It did get me a little bit. I'm just saying, besides it playing in the movie, I have a hard time listening to it in the real world just because all I'm thinking about is
Donnie
Jake
Darko,
Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal. And, you know, and ironically, again, this is like a thing that I wish I could just take some things from the director's cut, some things from the theatrical cut. The director's cut, the moments leading up to the first, you know, time you hear Mad World, there's a specific musical tone playing up to that song, and then it just fades out once Mad World starts playing. And I think that musical tone was purposely meant to lead into MLK. So that's why I was just, because, you know, MLK does start with a very long single note, and it's the same note that's playing in the director's cut. And I'm thinking, ugh.
I think it'd be kind of funny for them to play MLK when there's no African Americans in the movie.
Yeah, I do agree with that, but I think it was more just meant for the thematic material as opposed to, you know, literally the man. It was more
I think
of his
today,
ideas.
if that was the decision today, people would be pissy. Like, this movie has no African American people in it.
That is,
I was like looking out for that. There is none. Almost zero representation besides
Sharita.
Sharita, who I love. Oh my god, she's
Love
so
her.
cool. Oh my god, I want a Netflix series all about her and her
All
life.
about her. And
A
actually,
Cobra Kai style Netflix series about her.
I am so glad that you are into that.
Oh my god, love it.
Is it like that show had no right being
No
that good?
right to be so good and so nostalgic, and like, I mean, just the idea of taking the villain of a movie, of an 80s movie where there's already not that much like character development. He was just a very basic bully. To take that character and then put him in like because I feel like this is more of a real world scenario than the movies were. Those were very fantastical, like childlike. This one is so real. I love that he's a piece of shit still. Like, he's still an asshole and he's still himself.
But we
it's
get
like
him.
But we get him. When I saw him, when he first wakes up and there's like beer everywhere and he's just like, and he sees LaRusso's sign. I've been there where I've seen someone like in high school and they have like
We kicked the competition.
they're so successful, and I'm just like, I knew you when you weren't. And I don't know. I don't know. It's a good movie. It hit all those sweet nostalgic parts, and I think, I don't know who the writers are or creators, but
Kudos, right?
they have to be mega fans. Like how I am with Jurassic Park and Scream and Alien. They have to be like that for Karate Kid because they take so many things from all the different movies and still put them into the show.
Yeah, it was such an unexpected find. I'm like, okay, well, I actually watched that series without having seen the Karate Kid, none of the Karate Kid movies. So it was,
And you still liked it?
yeah, and it was so perfect because the movie treated the movies like some sort of legend, and I was in the same shoes as these, you know, modern day kids, where they only just knew the stories that they shared, you know. So it was like,
that
okay,
is a cool, unique.
yeah,
That's a cool, unique thing. I loved having watched the movies. There's a lot of
callbacks.
Callbacks, lots of little things, and you're like, I can't believe they remembered that from that
Yeah.
one little scene in the second movie. You know, like, so I think it's a perfect example of great writing.
And damn it, you are so lucky because you're one of those people who is able to binge watch these seasons, and all you have to wait is like 2 measly months
To
for
January.
season
I looked it up.
fucking
I was
3.
like, when is it coming?
Seriously,
I haven't finished season 2, so no spoilers. I
no
haven't finished it.
spoilers. I will say
I'm
it
only
is
about episode 4-ish.
Oh, it is an explosive finale. You're gonna love it. At least I hope you will. So,
And what's his face is so fun. First off, Johnny is a daddy. Could totally get it anytime he wants.
well,
That's the sensei of Cobra Kai.
Yeah, who's the
And
other?
then his son.
Oh, his son.
Who is 21. I looked it up.
Oh
so
yeah,
I can totally
absolutely.
thirst after him.
I am definitely thirsting after
He's got
Miguel.
a booty. Miguel's cute.
Miguel is getting buff. I follow
just-
his
I
Instagram,
mean,
and he's working out. He is going to
hopefully-
be out for revenge in season 3.
Because I forget his son, Johnny's son.
Oh shit!
Is just. I didn't hear what you just said.
Good. you're gonna.
All I heard was out for revenge,
hey,
but I thought maybe
you know
I
what?
thought you meant
No.
maybe. I thought because you meant he's like super hot, so he's gonna get back at the other guys who have been super hot.
That's exactly what I meant.
And
Hawkeye. Oh my God. One of my favorite characters. I do wish.
I love him.
It's so great because. Okay. Hello, we're the Final Gaze.
This is
We're doing our special episode of covering
This
Cobra
is
Kai.
the Final Gaze, now covering the entire series of Cobra Kai.
Don't.
This is a
tempt me,
special
that would be
bonus
great.
episode. Honestly, they're only 20-minute episodes.
They are. And this is the only case where I wish they were longer.
Yeah, me too. Me
Mm-hmm.
too. They go by too fast. But yeah, we're already running on.
Yeah, but Cobra Kai, great show. Watch it.
Amazing.
I'm so glad we will be able to geek out about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, Donnie Darko. Oh, yeah. But yeah, Mad World, you know. And honestly, I didn't know the name Gary Jules before Donnie Darko. And I think...
I didn't.
I think this really kind of propelled him into the spotlight. Like, this is the song he's known for now. And I think he's totally okay with that. But I don't know. It's a very
good
famous song.
I mean, it's iconic. You can definitely say it's iconic by this point.
Yeah. And like, you know, upon hearing it for the first time, this is like a song that I knew had to be on my iPod. And it was. And, you know, like I said before, I just think it represents teenage angst. It represents like an uncertainty of the future and like being misunderstood, as most teenagers are.
Went to school and I was very nervous. No one knew me. No one knew me. Hello, teacher, tell me what's my lesson. Look right through me. Look right through me.
I love it. And
It's that meme where you see an 8-year-old laying in the rain, listening to a song, and it's
Shut
so,
up.
like, that's what it feels like to me now. It's just like an 8-year-old standing out in the yard, like, can't go to the pool party on the weekend,
Toby, you're becoming cynical now.
thinking their life is over. I'm old now, guys. I'm getting old. That's why.
You know, it's funny. Last night, I did go see Demon Night at the Alamo Draft House, and I actually went. I don't know if you know him or not, but I went with this DJ named Jeff Phoenix. You know, you don't know him? Well, it's funny because we got to talking about, you know, we got into talking about ourselves a little bit and how he went to film school and how I went to film school. And it's funny because he mentioned that him going to film school sort of ruined the magic of going to the movies, you know? And I told him that fortunately I was able to sort of cling so desperately to that magic of movies that it didn't destroy movie watching for me as it did.
I can separate
the
filmmaking aspect from. I can let that go and watch the movie as if I don't know that they're all standing on a marker and there's 50 people around them.
And I just couldn't believe how much that changed a lot of my classmates. I'm like, really? That did it? Like, I remember Avatar came out right as we were like in the midst of like our associate's degree, and I was one of those fuckers who first of all saw it like 9 times in theaters.
It was an event movie.
Yeah.
I saw it several times,
and you know, I never got as extreme, but you know, I was one of those fuckers. Like, had I been a little bit more or less stable, I would have gladly taken a gun to my head and just wished I woke up in Pandora.
Isn't real.
You know, it was
so ridiculous.
It was that movie for me, and like I was thinking back and I'm like, I haven't seen Avatar in like 10 years, you know. But then it's like, then I get like these people, you know, the classmates who just now aren't like, they'll be like, oh, there was a boom in the shot, there was that's how they did that, you can clearly see they're acting. I'm like, well, yeah, of course, it's a movie. You know,
and I feel like that's like they're there for the technical aspects, whereas people like you and me, I think, want to be storytellers.
Yeah,
we want to tell this tale and stuff, and so for me, I can allow this tale to be told to me and let go of the fact that I know, you know, there's a giant white screen 5 inches away from this person who's crying and someone's, you know, like,
yeah, like
I can kind of fall in.
Like, I'll always remember this guy mentioning, like, oh yeah, you can see the giant white flag in the actor's pupils. I'm all like, why would you?
Why look for it?
Why look for it? Like, and it's so annoying because now every once in a while I'll be like, oh shit, you can see the giant white flag in his pupils, and I try not to acknowledge it.
the only time I do that, it'll happen sometimes, and I'll embrace it and kind of laugh at it and stuff, and it might take me out, is when I watch like old 70s, 80s schlocky horror movie. I eat that up though. Like if I do see a boom, to me it's just kind of part of the cheapness of those B movies.
Yeah, and you see, that's why I'm so glad that I'm friends with you, because I think we are able to watch a movie because we know what kind of movie it is. Obviously, yeah.
I just like I'm reading this right now. Right, it's fucking huge.
Whoa!
It's The Making of Aliens. It like goes into so much detail, like way more than I thought would be. You know, like you never know how many decisions are made in an office. You know, in in a random argument. You know, we might not have gotten, Ripley in the exosuit or the whatever it is.
Really?
You know, like there's just so many things, and even though I've read this book and now I know every detail of how they made every scene, I can still watch Aliens and love it.
Yeah.
So I think that's just the kind of people we are.
Hold on, wait. That's going to be an excellent prop for the screen cap. Just hold it up and smile and talk real quick. Say something.
I love it.
Okay. We're going to leave that in here because that's how dedicated we are to our fans.
Okay.
But yeah, no, the magic of filmmaking has not been destroyed for me. And as I was saying, we're able to watch movies because we know what kind of movies they are. We're going to watch a terrible, not even a B-, like a C+ horror movie. We're going to do a stupid commentary to the whole thing. We're going to watch Citizen Kane, obviously, sit down, respect. It's an important movie. Silence of the Lambs, stuff like that, Evil Dead 2. Donnie Darko, it's kind of half and half. I think we can do both of those things to Donnie Darko.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And that's film school talk with Toby and Harrison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, film school is going to be a shootout. The Final Gays talk film school. The Final Gays talk not horror movies, starting with Cobra Kai, an episode-by-episode breakdown. That does not sound like a bad idea. I do love really Cobra Kai. I'm a very general fan of the Karate Kid series, but I'm a really hardcore fan of Cobra Kai.
Honestly, I think you will get a lot. At least watch that first movie. Mm-hmm. There's just so much we could talk about. But yeah, we're talking about Donnie Darko.
Last thing about Karate Kid. I will say that I was able to experience Karate Kid in the best way possible because I'm not sure if it was a tie-in or maybe it just happened at the right time, but Sony released an amazing 4K version of that movie. It was like Sony is always excellent with their 4K releases, like the best of the best. And it is available on the Vudu account we share, so it is there on 4K.
Yeah, I did actually see that.
Which, by the way, you're totally taking advantage of that in such a beautiful way. I see the movies you're watching.
Thank you. A lot of them, it's like I'm showing Brian all these movies he's never seen.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Whatever, it's just more Cobra Kai stuff. But yeah, it's great. We love it.
In short, we love Cobra Kai. Watch it. But yeah, Donnie Darko. So philosophy of time travel. It does basically. It's kind of what came first, chicken or the egg. Did Donnie Darko come first and then the book, or did he kind of focus on writing this book first and then sort of forming his philosophies around the philosophy of time travel? Because there's a lot of things that sort of magically line up with the movie in the book, and that could be what came first. You seem to think that the movie came first and then the book.
I mean, that's not entirely true. I don't think he wrote the book. I'm sure he has scribbles somewhere, of like his ideas. Mm-hmm. I don't think he could have. I think he had created all of that already. I just don't think he had put it together as an explanation for the movie until after the movie, and everyone was like, "I have no fucking idea what you're talking about."
And it's like, well, then I better explain it to you.
I think he expanded on it. I don't know. I mean, I guess it seems like he had to have known the mythology in order to write the movie. Mm-hmm. It's confusing. I'm just confused.
Yeah. And I don't know. See, this is just kind of comes because when I did watch this movie, even back then, I still had like a deep fascination with time travel. So maybe that's how I was able to be like, oh, so this is that and that is this. But, you know, coming from a first time viewer, and that's why I really, really wish that our friend Richard had watched this so I can actually gauge his response and be like, so did you get it? Did you not get it? You know, and plus I would have definitely have showed him the theatrical cut first. You know, if we had the time, I would have then showed him the director's cut. And again, I do prefer certain elements from the director's cut, and I do love elements from the theatrical cut. It's kind of like I wish I could just pull from each one, but no, I have a feeling, unfortunately, you know, that's the hopeful side of me giving in. I think that the movie came first, and then the very specific excerpts from the book came second.
Yeah, I don't think those would have been in his original cut. Honestly, I think he only put those in to explain shit.
Yeah, which, you know, to each their own.
I mean, it has a huge cult following. There are people who eat this fucking movie up, so I'm sure he has no complaints.
Yeah, there is a lot of like Reddit threads about, you know, literally the philosophy of this movie, which
I mean,
I don't think that maybe Richard Kelly intended it to be that intense. I think he only realized that he had that on his hands when he saw the reaction of the first crowds of this movie.
Yeah.
And I think it was one of those underground. I mean, it's definitely a cult classic. I think it wasn't really well known when it came out because, as you said, it didn't have a very very limited, if at all, limited theatrical release. Like we're talking maybe L.A., New York, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel this would have been one of those movies, like, especially back then before the internet was the internet. Like, you know, colleges, you know, kind of being like, "Did you see this movie? This and that," you know. But of course, you know, our old friend Blockbuster never failed us, and that's
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. I miss you, Blockbuster. But yeah, the philosophy of time travel, again, it's just the movie, but now this book helps it makes sense. It gives terms to specific players in this huge scheme. Like, for instance, Gretchen and Frank are known as the manipulated dead. And their purpose is to their purpose is to lead Donnie Darko to restart, or not restart, but sort of bring the quote unquote artifact to the actual original universe. So and like there's a lot of things with like fire water and metal. You know, obviously, metal being that the artifact is always made of metal, and it even referenced, you know, ancient incidents with Mayans and metal arrowheads and European knights with metal swords. You know, like for instance, the Mayan was killed by a metal arrowhead that fell off of a cliff where there was no army, and the knight being killed by a sword that he had yet to make. So it's a lot of those, like, you know, time travel
made
philosophies. Yeah. Which I love. I ate it up. I'm like, oh my God, this is piecing together. This puzzle piece is going there and here, and, you know, and 1 + 1 = 2. Oh my God. So, but thinking about it, yeah, clearly the book came second because this was too convenient for it to be, well,
yeah.
But I guess I mean, aside from that, because the book obviously is itself, I would suggest for those who have seen the movie, both cuts, but haven't read this. It's only 6 pages. I think it's actually 3 pages. 6 if you read the interpretation of the writer of that book. You know, like, these characters are these characters, and this is that. I would suggest reading it. It's actually a little quick, fun read. You know, but I guess what I really want to get into next are the supporting characters. You know, specifically the teachers, which were my favorite. Specifically, the teachers are the only supportive characters of Donnie Darko. You know, they want to support his mindset. They want to make him grow. They wanted to make him understand, because I think they see the potential in the character. You know, they're obviously being good teachers. They want to lead him in the right direction. But again, you have I think they're called, the opposers, where you got the principal, the Kitty Farmer, and Jim Cunningham, who are actively trying to destroy him. And that's what I think, again, coming down to Kitty Farmer. I think she's a tragic character because she's trying to do what she thinks is right. But when she wakes up as a manipulated living at the end, she realizes that the whole time she was ironically going down the path of fear. And there's a whole scene with her. There's the two paths in life, fear and love. And for the longest time, she's held on to the conviction that she was leading a life of love, when in actuality, upon waking up from the dream as a manipulated living, she was living a life of fear. Which, that could come down to oh my God, take it easy, it's just a movie. You're reading too much into it, but that's what I took away from it. Especially on this viewing, when I'm really thinking about it.
Yeah.
So,
I don't see her as a tragic character. I don't think there's enough depth for me to feel any kind of tragedy for her. I just think she's kind of a funny, quirky character who may come to a realization that she's been a complete fucking bitch this whole time. But
well, that's also one way to say it.
I don't know. That's how I took it this time. I mean, for me this time, it was hard for me to see it any deeper than the filmmaking wise, or trying to figure out what the writer is trying to do. And my conclusion is that the writer was trying to do anything. Was just, I don't know. There's a lot of things that don't. Whatever.
Do you think the writer was like just graduated college and was trying to still make that college movie?
Yes.
Like, I'm gonna wow the hell out of my professor. Pretentious
yes. is the word that I'm looking for. I feel like the movie is super pretentious. I think it's sucking its own dick, and I think that at the time when I was a lot younger, I ate it up. But now as an adult, and I've seen much more movies and read a lot about film and writing and things like that. That looking at it now, I feel like it was just to try and wow people with how deep this is, without explaining why it's deep. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the best thing about this movie, is that we are the prime examples of two individuals on opposite sides of that spectrum. The guy...
And look, I don't need every movie to explain everything to me. Mm-hmm. Hereditary. There's a lot of movies that you kind of have to...
No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men. There's a lot of movies that I love that you have to bring... your own mind into it. You kind of have to put in the pieces for yourself. Love that. With certain movies, it works really well.
Norbit.
This movie,
Norbit.
I'm
just fucking.
I don't think I've seen it. I was like, but lost my train of thought.
But some movies probably need that.
Yes, I feel like this movie needed a little bit. Mm-hmm. Connect the dots a little bit more, because it doesn't seem like it's making you try and put in the pieces. It just seems like it's missing scenes.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I think the director's cut filled those blanks. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe.
Well, geez. I think that's it, right? I mean,
I'm not really sure what else. Have you seen, just very briefly before we go, have you seen S. Darko?
I think I tried watching it, and I was like, yeah, fuck this.
Yeah, it's a piece of shit. I will say I enjoyed that soundtrack, the score, way more than I did Donnie Darko's. Besides Manipulated Living.
I mean, I thought it was cool that they got DeVay Chase.
I love a lot of the themes in that movie, even though the movie is complete trash.
Which, by the way, how could we overlook her? DeVay Chase, of course, coming from either before or after or right at the point of her success in The Ring as Samara.
Yeah, she was Lilo in Lilo and Stitch.
Oh my God, she was. Wow.
Yeah. I love her.
Yeah, a white girl playing a Hawaiian, sure.
I mean, not that I love her. I just thought she was, for her time, she was cute. She was good. I don't think she's very good in S. Darko. I think she's good in supporting roles and just her voice, but when you have to put a whole movie on her and trying to do this, they still try and do, you know, the time travel and all that bullshit. And there's a phoenix.
I need to actually watch it.
There's a phoenix on fire that comes at the end, and asteroids and shit.
Interesting.
Yeah,
no, I just need to watch it. I think I watched like maybe half of it before I realized like I don't like this.
Take a look at it. It's a piece of shit. Doesn't fit with the story. You know, they try to do too much callbacks to the original for no reason. It's one of those movies where they do callbacks for a character who wasn't in the scenes that they're recalling. You know, either she's having a flashback of something, but I remember thinking she wasn't even there. How does she know that happened? So, but the score is really good.
Yeah, I can't guarantee that I'll watch it, but as I always say, I'll put it on the list.
Okay.
And I guess
that's all I got to say about Darko.
And I guess one thing before we go, of course, I think this was definitely after Freaks and Geeks, but Seth Rogen, and he has one of the most random lines in the whole movie. I like your boobs.
Which was like his first line, right? In his first line in any movie ever. That was Seth Rogen.
I like your
boobs. Set the tone for the rest of his career.
Yep. And it's just crazy because, you know, it's like, oh my God, this is one of those movies where there's like, before they were famous or, you know, household names, you know. Yeah. And then here we have him saying, I like your boobs.
It's funny. It was good. I mean, obviously people did a good job.
But yeah, no, that's pretty much it for me too. You know, I don't really take notes anymore in movies. I love this freeform talk without actually hitting some notes.
I almost have been enjoying not taking notes. I almost have been able to capture more, like really take things in more because I'm not trying to focus on writing and watching the fucking movie. Yeah. So yeah, I've been liking it, this format.
And we hope that you've been liking it, listener. So this is pretty much going to be how it's going to go from now on. I think just a big old free
we
form.
evolve, right? We've been evolving since we started. It's been almost a year.
Our 1-year anniversary is coming up. Thanksgiving.
Our format has changed several times.
Oh my goodness!
And I think for the better, though. I think every time we find a groove and we kind of, you know,
go with
morph.
it.
Yeah, I think every time we make a change, it's for the better. So
yeah. So yeah, and you know, we're glad you're here. You've been with us from the beginning, listeners, aka Richard. So we hope you like it.
Thank you, Richard.
So Toby, what did you think of Donnie Darko?
I think this movie is definitely worth a watch. I think it is, like you said, there are two types of moviegoers, and there's 50% of people I think are going to fucking hate this movie, and 50% who are going to be enthralled and totally sucked into the mythology, if they're into that kind of thing. But the thing is, I don't even think people who like time travel will like this movie that much, because that's such a small part of the movie that you don't even really know that it's happening. You have to really think to be like, oh, they just did a whole like time whatever. So I think it's worth a one-time watch. I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's a worthy cult classic. I understand why it is. Me personally, I've said this several times. I don't know if I'm going to watch it again unless I have to, because I was so fucking bored. It just, yeah. So I got 40 minutes in, and then I paused it to use the restroom, and I saw how much was left, and I was like, holy shit, literally nothing has happened.
And this, yeah, aside from the other movies, this was a long movie. It
is a fucking long movie.
A little under 2 hours.
It's so long, and yet did not explain anything. For having so much runtime, very little was explained. But
I have a feeling you just got absorbed into that, you know, funny YouTube videos are like 5 minutes, and now all of a sudden all my comedy came from 5-second vines, so it needs to be shortened to the point. And if it's not,
that is not true.
Are you sure?
Suspiria. I will use that as an excuse.
Suspiria, okay.
Absolutely love Suspiria.
Which, by the way, have you seen Luca Guadagnino's new show, We Are Who We Are?
No. Is it good?
Yeah, I'm
interested.
I think it's very good. I think it's very confusing. confusing with the main character. Well, it's not even the main character anymore, but like the first episode, I really wish there's something we watch a show. Like, I really wish you could watch it so I can actually see what you think about it. So I could be like, why is he acting the way he is?
I'll watch it. It's definitely on the list because I like him. And I don't know much about it, but I did hear he had a TV show, and so it's definitely something on my radar.
It's very obviously Luca Guadagnino, like the unique looking, crazy main titles and credits. It's like, well, Luca Guadagnino, the glaring piano music from Call Me by Your Name, like the straight strict cuts from like Suspiria, the straight direct unnatural yet somehow natural acting. It's just it has his signature everything in it. It's on HBO Max or Now, whatever it is. So catch it if you can. I want to talk to you about it.
I will say, when I say it's boring, it's because I've seen it a couple times, and I just know what's coming, and for me, because I know what the twists are, like I know how it ends. I just was bored because I kind of knew what was going on and still was kind of confused. I don't think it's going to be boring for someone who watches it for the first time, as long as they're going into it with the knowledge that it's not. It's a film goer's movie. It's a movie. It's actors movie. You watch it because there's really good performances. You watch it because it's weird and it's some kind of experimental indie movie. I don't think an average moviegoer will like to watch this, but I don't think you'll be bored because you'll be wondering what the fuck is happening the whole time. I don't think it has rewatchability. I think I should have made that point a little clearer. It's just that I don't think it has rewatchability for me. And that's my thoughts.
Yeah. Well, you're allowed to be wrong. I'm just kidding. No, actually, what's funny is I actually did, when they released the Arrow version of it, Alamo Drafthouse did a screening of it, and I caught it, and it was amazing to watch it with the crowd. Specifically for people who wanted to be there, because of course they reacted to all the proper moments, and it was the director's cut, and it was in a theater. So obviously, I think that was there's a fan base for this movie, but just as easy as there's a fan base, there's also haters of this movie, and I understand both aspects. I can see how frustratingly. What's the word that we said? Pretentious.
I don't know. Pretentious.
Yeah, yes. Pretentious movie could be, but also I could see even how unique it could be, how like for me, I love time travel, so any time travel movie I am in. Obviously some movies do it better than the others. Some movies don't do it right at all. I think one of the most fun time travel moments in any movie is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, which I love. Kind of
in those movies it doesn't bother me because the whole thing is just fantastical and fantasy. You don't have to have rules in something like Harry Potter or like the Avengers. I love Endgame. Tons of like the whole point of that movie is time travel, but it doesn't, it does it so basic. It's just, we went back in time. There's no explanation. There's no trying to really define how it works. And so it works somehow.
Which is why I really want you to watch this movie called Primer.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. People have recommended it. It's on the list.
Yeah, I want to watch it specifically because that guy did Upstream Color, which I haven't seen, but I want to watch. His name.
No, yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so it's like it's that independent filmmaker who made a splash at all like the film festivals with this movie. But yeah, no, I think it's pretty obvious. I love Donnie Darko. I love its quirkiness. I love its weirdness. I love its philosophy when you delve into it. I just love, specifically with the ending, I just love the way it makes me feel. It makes me feel as if, because obviously when you really dig into it, there's obviously a lot of like religious themes as well. Martyrdom, sacrifice, of course. I love the fact that Donnie Darko is laughing at the end because he knows that despite him like basically sacrificing himself, despite him knowing he's gonna die, he's laughing. And the whole theme with him is that he doesn't want to die alone. And in the end, he realizes that he doesn't, because he was able to live a whole 30 days after his actual death. And he was able to experience, quote unquote, life, a girlfriend, losing his virginity, course, he has sex with Jenna Malone. Oh, and I love Jenna Malone. I loved her in this movie. I loved her in Into the Wild.
She's amazing in everything. Jenna Malone is just, you don't even have to. She's an icon of indie filmmaking. She's an indie darling for sure. So I love anything I love her in anything. I don't think I've seen a movie where she did a bad job.
Yeah. So, yeah, I love Donnie Darko.
So how many jet engines or airplane engines would you give this?
Okay, I'm gonna go first because I think I have a pretty not controversial. I'm gonna give this 4.5 jet engines out of 5 for those reasons.
I think that's fair.
It's it's a movie that just it stuck with me when it's not in my top 10. I think it's definitely in my top 20. I think it's a movie that I watched at a time when indie movies were really truly finding its way into my life, so I welcomed it. And as I said before, I'm just really sad I'll never be able to experience this movie for the first time ever again. So the way I felt watching that ending sequence with Mad World playing, I'll never be able to feel that ever again. But for you, how many jet engines out of 5 do you give Donnie Darko?
I'm gonna give it 3.
I knew it.
I'm gonna give it a 3. I think filmmaking wise, it's a solid movie. I think it's edited well. I think the actors were directed well for the kind of movie, whatever they were trying to portray. The music, I think everything is fine as far as the filmmaking aspect. It looks good. I really liked the scenery of when Donnie first wakes up in the beginning and him biking down the mountain. Beautiful. But for me, not rewatchable. For me, it is a movie I'll remember fondly liking it in high school, and that's where it's going to live for me. So I'm going to give it a 3. I recommend it, though. I do think you should sit down and watch it at least once.
And also, I think it is actually funny that you say not rewatchable, because I'll actually agree with that. While watching it for this, because of how familiar I was with this movie, I found myself like, okay, well, this is just that scene, so I can go check Facebook or whatever, go watch porn on Tumblr or Twitter.
Yeah.
So
Twitter for me.
Yeah.
Porn.
But I will say that this is a movie I would gladly show someone for the first time. Just to see how they react to moments, or specifically just the ending. I want to see if they're just as like, oh, whoa, or like, wow, that's stupid. I want to see what they feel. I want to see.
I can see that. I love doing that with certain movies too, with showing them to other people and seeing their reaction. So I definitely get that.
And while I definitely am very familiar with the movie, you might be able to experience that with me when you get to show me I Know What You Did Last Summer from beginning to end.
I Know What You Did Last Summer. I love it so much. Sarah Michelle Gellar at her prime.
So, yeah, I always remember, I actually forgot when I rewatched Scream 2 a while back that she was in that. So I was like, whoa.
And I love that she signed on for that movie with not reading a script just because she loved Scream so much.
And then there she goes. Second scene,
I would have done the same.
Gets offed.
I think if I was in a Scream movie, I'd want to die.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I'd want a great chase scene and die.
That's got to be the thing. Like I always remember, like especially for the quarantine, like rewatching the Screams, watching Scream 4. I'm thinking, oh, so they're going this route, the opening scene, and then realize like, oh, nope.
I love it.
Fake out. And there's like 5 fake outs, and I remember specifically everyone in the theater groaning and laughing.
Yeah,
I was just like,
oh man,
oh yes. Of course, that'll be for another time when the Final Gaze does a whole Scream overview for Scream 5.
Maybe when Scream 5 comes out,
exactly.
Yeah, do a retrospective. Well, should we wrap up?
Yes, sir. All right. Well, this has been the Final Gaze. I'm actually maybe thinking of not killing the website. So maybe, I don't know, we'll see. But again, for as long as it exists, until maybe end of November, come visit us at www.thefinalgaze.com. You can also listen to us on all like your primary podcast listening apps. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean,
iTunes.
iTunes. We're also maybe coming to Amazon Music, Pandora. we might be coming there. So be sure to keep a lookout on there. If you do listen on there, you could also find us on all the social medias.
And subscribe.
Yes.
Leave a star if you love us. If you don't, it's fine. Just, rate us, give us some comments if you listen to our episodes, and let us know what would keep you listening, maybe.
Yeah.
If whatever we do right or wrong, it'd be really nice to hear from people who give us a listen.
Yeah, rate, comment, subscribe. Tell Toby what your favorite dinosaur is.
Please, and maybe you'll get a special surprise.
Oh my God, mine is the one I just figured out how to say earlier this year. What was it? Ankylosaur.
Ankylosaurus.
Yes, I remember. I've been saying it wrong my whole life. Ankylosaur.
Ankylosaurus.
Ankylosaur is my favorite because it has. Well, it's cute. It's cute.
It is cute. Dinosaur.
Especially the baby one. But yeah, next week. Not even next week. This very week. Right now, if you're listening to this on the first day, you're listening to this episode on Tuesday. However, this coming Saturday, October 31st, 2020, you'll be hearing our very first Halloween special where we will be covering Trick or Treat, directed by Michael Dougherty. Michael Dougherty, okay. I always mix him up and the guy who did Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor.
Michael Flanagan?
Oh, see, Flanagan, Dougherty, yeah. So tune in this Saturday for our very first Saturday episode where we cover Trick or Treat.
I'm looking forward to it.
Until then, my name is Harrison.
And I'm Toby. And we are the Final Gaze.